Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open a text called The Goal of the Wise to uncover a completely different version of a story you think you know, the story of Noah's Ark and the Great Flood.
We all think we know the story, right? God gets angry with a wicked world and hits the reset button. But the goal of the wise suggests something else entirely. It argues that the flood wasn't just a punishment. It was a targeted, almost surgical, cosmic mission. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to dive into the flood's real, hidden purpose. Then we'll look at the unbelievable trials of the ark itself. After that, the new laws for a new world, the shocking secrets hiding within Noah's own family, and finally, a really stunning idea about hidden divine knowledge. Okay, let's start with the big one, the purpose of the flood. According to this text, you have to throw out the idea of a random reset. This was a very specific purification of the planet, aimed at getting rid of a very specific problem.
The whole idea here is that the Earth needed a deep clean from a particular bloodline that had just corrupted everything. But whose? Well, the source says you have to go all the way back to the very first family.
And here's the connection. The source points to this verse in the Bible, arguing that Cain wasn't just a bad guy. He was literally a child of Iblis, or Satan. And it claims his descendants had spread across the earth, filling it with so much chaos that the flood was the only way to perform this cosmic purification.
But, purifying the entire world, it wasn't so simple. The whole process of building the ark turned into this incredibly long and difficult test of faith, way more intense than the story we usually get.
And you gotta wonder, right? If the flood is definitely coming, why did it take so long? And why did Noah's followers keep bailing on him? Well, the text says there was a saboteur working from the inside, his own wife. Get this, according to some Gnostic texts that the source brings in, Noah's wife, Norea, who, by the way, was supposedly a descendant of Cain herself, kept destroying the ark. Every time it was nearly finished, she would sneak out and burn the entire thing to the ground, 10 times.
But here's the incredible twist. The source reframes these disasters completely. Each time the ark burned, it wasn't just a setback. It was a divine test. It was a filter. With every fire and every delay, some followers left, others became hypocrites, until finally, only the truly faithful, the absolute core group remained. So once those grueling trials are finally over and the world is washed clean, God sets up a new covenant with Noah. And this isn't just a vague promise. It's a whole new legal system for a brand new humanity.
And this is a huge deal because it puts Noah into this really elite group of 5 covenant prophets. Each one of these figures, according to the text, brought a new set of divine laws, a new jurisprudence that basically redefined civilization for the era that followed. So what were the new rules of the game? Well, a few big things changed. For the very first time, people were allowed to eat meat. But there was a big catch. You couldn't eat it with the blood still in it. And a new absolute law was laid down. Murder is forbidden, and the punishment is death.
Now, this is where the story takes a really shocking turn. The source claims that the whole purification of the earth, well, it wasn't 100% successful. Why? Because that same corrupting seed, it survived, hidden inside Noah's own family. To understand this, the text says we have to get 2 figures straight who are often confused. Yam, the son who drowned in the flood, and Canaan, who was born after. According to this interpretation, the official story of who their parents were is dead wrong. The source points directly to the Quran for this one. When Noah's son, who is identified as Yam, is drowning, God tells Noah he is certainly not of your family. The text says don't read that as a metaphor. It argues this means literally, biologically, Yam was not Noah's son. His wife had been unfaithful. Okay, so that's Yam. But after the flood, another really strange and disturbing event happens on the ark. The book of Genesis says that Noah's son Ham saw the nakedness of his father. What on earth does that mean? Well, the source says you have to look at how that phrase is used elsewhere in the Bible, like in Leviticus. And when you do, it's not about seeing anything. It's a biblical euphemism for sleeping with your father's wife. The text is arguing an act of incest happened between Ham and his own mother, Nora, on the ark. And the result of that union is just mind-bending. Canaan is born. But this means Ham is both his father and his brother. Think about that. The very lineage of disobedience, the one the flood was supposed to wipe out,
survived and actually multiplied right there on the ark. So you have to be asking yourself, why would truths like this be so deeply buried in the scriptures? This question leads us to the final and maybe the most important idea in the whole text, the deliberate hiding of divine knowledge. The source argues that God actually commanded the righteous descendants of Adam to practice something called taqiyya. In simple terms, it's the sanctioned practice of concealing the truth, hiding the deeper aspects of religion from those who were unworthy or from the envious descendants of Cain to keep it safe. And this idea of hidden knowledge isn't just a concept. It's quantified in a really powerful narration from the family of the Prophet Muhammad. It says that the sum total of all divine knowledge is made up of 27 letters or parts. And this chart illustrates it perfectly. Imagine all of God's knowledge broken into 27 pieces. Well, according to this narration, everything humanity has ever received, from every prophet, from Adam all the way to Muhammad, it only adds up to 2 of those letters. The other 25? They're still hidden. But that knowledge isn't lost forever. The source concludes that this enormous, hidden library of truth is destined to be opened at the end of times by a messianic figure. He will unveil the remaining 25 letters, finally completing our understanding of God and the true history of our world.
Look, what we've just covered is just a scratch on the surface of one very deep, very complex interpretation. But it leaves you with this one final massive question. If a radical story like this can be pulled from just the 2 letters we supposedly have, what realities are waiting for us in the 25 we don't?